Hello everyone, today is 19th of July, now it's almost 2 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a number of interesting developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this month, although I will start with a short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield and let's go from southern sectors up to northern ones. In Kherson direction we have news from Ukrainian side because first time since the beginning of this so-called Kherson offensive of the Kiev regime forces in 2023, Ukrainian channels are acknowledging not just full control of Russian troops over the Krinky settlement, but also Russian progress in terms of establishing control over the territories between these islands on the Dnieper River, to be more precise, in the area of Basanka channel, this one here. And also, by the way, when it comes to Krinky, yesterday I shared in the second video information about number of missing among Kiev regime personnel just in the Krinky direction, and this number is up to 800. And under the video yesterday I saw commentaries. Maybe I was not clear enough in that video, and question was maybe those missing soldiers did surrender to Russian side or just run away, and that's why Kiev regime don't know their whereabouts. But well, theoretically it is possible, of course, that some numbers of Kiev regime's military personnel run away, some number surrender to Russian forces, but vast majority of that up to 800 military personnel most likely was killed in action. But Kiev regime is using this tactic of declaring killed military personnel as a missing, so that this way they are minimizing casualty numbers, and also, by the way, which is very important, they are creating ground for themselves not to pay compensations to the families of their killed Ukrainian soldiers. And this practice of Kiev regime is well known inside Ukraine also, not just in Russia, but also inside Ukraine. Many people are complaining about it, and yesterday I shared in that second video information from Ukrainian media outlet. It was Ukrainian media outlet that was reporting that Kiev regime declared up to 800 military personnel as a missing, while they perfectly well know that in reality those soldiers were killed. And by the way, Russian high-ranking officials said many times that when Russian troops establish control over the Krinky, full control over the Krinky, which is of course on the left bank of the Dnieper River, in the basements of the buildings, Russian troops were finding horrifying scenes when tens and tens of killed military personnel of the Kiev regime was just left in the base, in the ground there, in the basements of the buildings. And I'm quite sure Russian side tried its best to identify those soldiers if that was possible, and maybe Russian side transferred information to Kiev regime. But yet again, Zelensky and his associates, they want to steal money, by the way. They don't care about people, they don't care about families of the killed soldiers that they sacrifice for the geopolitical agenda of the West, and they are declaring these killed soldiers as missing. And just imagine if just in Krinky direction Kiev regime declared as missing up to 800 military personnel. Can you imagine how many soldiers killed in action, soldiers were declared by Kiev regime as a missing all along the front line? Tens of thousands. So this is when it comes to Kherson direction. I guess from now on there can be no questions about who is controlling Krinky and nearby areas. Even Kiev regimes, even Ukrainian sources are acknowledging Russian progress in this direction. Next is Zaporozhye sector of the front line. No reports about any significant developments in this direction, although rumors are circulating that Russian armed forces may in relatively short time start offensive operations towards Orekhovo and Gulyai Polye. When it comes to South Donetsk sector of the front line, Russian troops are closing into Ugledar city. Russian troops are conducting local scale offensive operations from southern eastern side, from northern eastern side, and also of course Russian troops are conducting offensive operations between Vremovsky salient and Ugledar, and on Vremovsky salient itself. Makarovka will be hotspot on the map in a relatively short time, because Russian troops are already on outskirts of this settlement. When it comes to southern flank of Donetsk sector, there was no reports about some crucial changes in Krasnogorovka area, which is a main hotspot. Russian troops are controlling about 90% of this settlement, and I guess it's only a matter of days and Kyiv regime will withdraw whatever troops they have left in this northern western corner of the settlement. Battle of Krasnogorovka effectively is over at this point. Avdiivka direction, Russian troops continue their offensive operations in the northern and the southern flanks. Russian troops are controlling almost half of the Novoselovka Первая settlement. Northern part is under Russian control, and in upcoming days we will probably see further advances of Russian armed forces, and entire this settlement will become under full Russian control. And Russian troops also are advancing towards a Progress settlement on the northern flank of Avdiivka direction. Some sources are reporting that forward units of Russian armed forces already are inside the Progress itself and are establishing control over the several streets there. When it comes to New York Toretsk direction, Russian troops further improving their positions in New York, and if on initial stages of this offensive local scale or even sectoral scale, we may say, offensive operation, Russian troops entered New York from southern side, and offensive was southern western direction. Now we are receiving information that Russian troops are conducting offensives also from southern direction, but also from towards eastern parts of New York. And the reports are that this area is already under Russian control. It's a school building here, for example, on the eastern part of southern New York, and this building is under Russian control now. So that can be seen as an indicator that entire this territory is under Russian control. So progress is significant. And even though Kyiv regime deployed additional forces in New York direction to stabilize front line, seems like Kyiv regime troops are unable to create more or less reliable defense lines, and Russian troops continue offensive operations towards Toretsk. Also, main hotspots are Druzhba, Kirova, and Russian troops are conducting offensive operations also from Leninskaya settlement. But progress is relatively slow in this direction, because on initial stages we all remember that Russian forces advance in significant way, and of course it will take some time now to reestablish defense lines, supply and support lines, and soon we should expect further progress of Russian troops towards Toretsk. Also interesting news that first time Kyiv regime, Ukrainian sources basically, are acknowledging full Russian control over the eastern part of Kalinin settlement. This settlement, like Chisov Yar itself, divided by Seversky Donetsk Donbass channel, and I reported about Russian control over the Kalinin, eastern parts of Kalinin, quite a while ago, but only now Kyiv regime is acknowledging this significant progress of the Russian forces in this area. When it comes to main part of Chisov Yar on the western side of Seversky Donetsk Donbass channel, at this point Russian armed forces conducting artillery strikes, missile strikes. Russian drones are actively working to find out locations of the Kyiv regime troops, but ground offensive towards this western part of Chasiv Yar have not yet started. And of course, Russian side will take time. Chasiv Yar, this western part of Chasiv Yar, can be used as a magnet, as a trap for quite a while, I guess. And Russian forces quite effectively using this active defense strategy, and traps are definitely part of this strategy. Also, Seversk direction, by the way, we have information about Russian progress in direction of Ivano-Darivka. And this settlement is under full Russian control now. This morning, military summary also reported about it. Many members of our community, I'm sure, watched military summaries update. And by the way, if you are not familiar with the channel, under this video in description box, I have recommendation list, and you can find there links to all the channels, or maybe not all the channels, but many channels that I follow, including military summary. And well, as Dima, host of military summary, said, we should expect now Russian offensive towards Vyemka settlement from Ivano-Darivka area, and also towards Novoselovka, maybe. But in anyways, Russian troops are closing into Seversk, by the way. And if you remember, when Russian troops liberated Avdiivka, I was receiving questions, what you think, where we're gonna see next sectoral scale Russian offensive operations, and I said Seversk direction. And I still think that more or less large scale Russian offensive will take place into the Seversk direction, although of course some may argue that New York-Toretsk offensive operations of the Russian armed troops are also can be considered as a sectoral scale. And yes, it's quite a relatively large scale offensive, of course, towards New York-Toretsk is taking place, but the Seversk area is like 4 times bigger. So in terms of sectoral scale offensives, I guess yes, Seversk direction will be the next big next venue of the relatively large scale Russian offensive operations. What else? In Kupiansk direction, we have reports about Russian offensives, local scale offensives, on the southern eastern side of Sinkovka, in this forest area, forest line. Russian troops improve their positions here. And well, as Russian progress continues in Kupiansk direction, of course, we will probably hear more and more about Sinkovka, because battles for this settlement are taking place for a very, very long time. Like it was the case in with Belogorovka on Seversk direction, but now Belogorovka is under full Russian control, this settlement here. And далее we have of course northern parts of Kharkov direction. Kiev regime is desperately trying, Kiev regime forces, to establish control over the Glubokaya, but they are just sending their own troops to certain death. Glubokaya become a huge trap for Kiev regime this direction, and the Russian army, Russian artillery, Russian air force is decimating concentrations points of the Kiev regime in this area, and plenty of videos on internet, by the way, about it. And when it comes to and by the way, Russian troops already achieve huge success in Glubokaya direction, because as I said, this settlement become, or this direction in general, become a trap. Kiev regime is sending hundreds and hundreds of its military personnel in this direction, and those units are getting neutralized by Russian long-range strikes. So yes, Russian troops achieve significant success in this regard in Glubokaya. And when it comes to eastern part of this buffer zone that Russian armed forces creating in the last 2 months, of course, Volchansk is a main hotspot. A military summary reported that Russian troops further improved their foothold on the southern part of southern bank of Volchya River. But when it comes to Volchansk itself, well, local battles continue. Yesterday we had report about Russian progress in Citadel, and head of Akhmat Special Forces Apti Alaudinov, Major General Apti Alaudinov, reported that first line of these high-rise apartments are under Russian control already. And well, probably this battle will continue for a while to control northern Volchansk, because seems like Kiev regime is willing to sacrifice as many military personnel as they can find, basically, because from military standpoint it does makes no sense now to hold on to these areas of the northern Volchansk that Kiev regime troops are presented still. But well, as I said many times, Kiev regime don't really cares about number of casualties, and therefore they're sending more and more troops, and Russian armed forces neutralizing those units one after another. And Volchansk also seems like to be another trap on the map, and as long as this trap is working, I don't really see a reason why would Russian forces rush developments, why would Russian forces escalate to establish full control of the northern part, while they see Kiev regime is sending battalion after battalion after battalion, and because supply and support lines of this Kiev regime forces in the northern Volchansk are under direct Russian fire, of course it's a perfect opportunity to basically neutralize relatively with relatively easily, of course, although there is nothing easy when it comes to battles, obviously, but because of the control over the fire control over the supply and support lines, of course, these Kiev regime troops are getting into trap, and it is much easier to neutralize those forces in these circumstances than when they have unchallenged supply and support, right? I hope I explained myself, and therefore I see now Volchansk as a big trap. Big trap, like Glubokaya direction also, although of course we cannot compare. Glubokaya is a tiny settlement, tiny like village, and Kiev regime already lost in this direction, like couple of battalions. While Volchansk is medium-sized town, and of course casualty numbers on part of Kiev regime is like, I don't know how, 10 times higher or 20 times higher, but much higher for sure. Anyways, this is it. No crucial changes on the line of contact, no probably like massive breakthroughs, but Russian progress is obvious. Russian armed forces are increasing pressure on Kiev regime units, Kiev regime's defense lines, and Russian troops are improving their positions on daily basis. Initiative, of course, is in Russian hands, and there is no way Kiev regime will be able to regain initiative on any direction at all. That's been said, let's talk about some other news now. And well, of course, breaking news worldwide today is this major global IT outage that ground the planes, railways are not working in many countries, by the way, especially in the West. Airports are shutting down. There is issues with the communication, big issues with the communication, and this is all due to some glitch in Microsoft programming, right? In Microsoft software. So disruptions to the air traffic control systems is being reported around the world, and not just traffic control, but as I mentioned, there is many issues. A preliminary reports say that computer glitch may be a cause of the problem. Issues have been noticed in US, Spain, Germany, Australia, and number of other countries, with the authorities forced to cancel takeoffs and the landings due to safety issues. We have a Microsoft's statement that they are working on the issue, and they managed to resolve some problems, but still, by the way, world is in bigger trouble. So Microsoft, a major technical feature in its systems that led to interruptions in the work of companies around the world, managed to restore the operations of some services, not all, according to the company's website. And then, quote, our data and the customer communications indicate that some services have been restored. The server status message said, among the newly working services are Microsoft Defender, Microsoft Intune, Microsoft OneNote, OneDrive for Business, SharePoint Online, Windows 365, Viva, Engage, and Microsoft Purview. However, there are still problems with Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft 365 Admin Center. It is noted that company continues to work on restoring systems. Some big glitch has happened. Some are reporting that this is due to there was some update in one of the programs, and during this update this glitch spread all over the, not all over the, but along system, many systems of Microsoft. And this is, I'm not a software engineer, so it's like Chinese for me, but as far as I understand, there was no hacker attack. It was a mistake on part of Microsoft, because CrowdStrike, general director of the CrowdStrike, George Kurtz, stated that problem that world is facing, clients of the Microsoft basically, and many companies, and the people that were dependent on those companies are facing, is due to issues with their Windows operational system, and it was not a hacker attack. It was not an attack of some sort of hackers, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I saw trains are not running, planes are not flying, even TVs are not working, by the way. TV stations, they cannot, because there is communication issues also. And that's what happens when you have this type of giant companies that are monopolies on the market. Why Microsoft is so big? Why anti-monopoly institutions in US did not break down this company in like 10 different companies, or 20 or 50? Who cares, man? Just break them, so that whenever some problems hit the fan, then world is not down, and there will be some alternative systems that will work as a kind of backup. But now, when you only have like Microsoft as a monopoly, if anything goes wrong with this company's programs, then you see what you see today. So it's a definitely world issue. This is definitely a world issue, by the way. So dear friends, let me sorry, dear friends, I have to fix something there. So yes, that's the issue, and that's the issue that is number one topic in this world. But anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that Japan plans to send billions to Ukraine using frozen Russian assets. So Tokyo, which uses any opportunity to bark at Russia, really, government of Japan, this government that not really represents Japanese people, but represents occupying regime, or Washington to be more precise. So Japanese government will shoulder 520 billion yens, Japanese yens, which is 3.3 billion US dollars, in loans to Kiev regime, funded by proceeds from the Russian assets blocked as a part of Western sanctions. The Kyoto news agency reports on Wednesday, citing diplomatic sources. Okay. No surprises, but well, Japan should know that we have good memory here, and there will be consequences for all the actions that these client states of the Washington are taking against Russia. They should get ready for this, because well, man, it might take a year, 10 years, 20 years, but as we say, revenge is a cold dish. Revenge is a dish that should be served cold. And yes, we have all the time we need, and we have good memory to know all our enemies and hit them back as hard as we can when it's the right time. So Japan wants to F around. Okay, let's see how far they will go with this craziness. Anyways, RT is reporting that North Korea hosts Russian military delegation. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has received a Russian military delegation led by Deputy Defense Minister Alexei Krivoruchko in Pyongyang, a state-run KCNA news agency reported on Friday. So yes, military cooperation between Russia and North Korea increasing. After all, North Korea and Russia now have a strategic partnership deal in place, and it is quite understandable that cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang, as we say it here in Russia, will only increase, only intensify, and not just in terms of military cooperation, but also in terms of economical, financial cooperation. Just recently, I saw some news that North Korea will receive, will have opportunity now to sell its apples on Russian market. It may not sound like big deal, apples, but by the way, North Korea, if they want to, they can sell all the apples into Russia, you know. And they can replace apples from EU member states. Why not? I think North Korean apple will taste as good as apples from Poland, for example. Right? And maybe even better, because I think North Korean apples will be much more natural, let's say this way, without all the chemical stuff that is used in many countries to increase harvest as much as possible. Anyways, yes, I mean, as I said, apples, I mean, no big deal, obviously, one may say, but it's all about beginning of the cooperation, and once North Korean market will fully open for Russian businesses, man, I mean, just give it then 5 to 10 years and you would not be able to recognize North Korea. That's how fast Russian investments gonna change this country. Anyways, let's continue. Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that according to Newsmax, Biden is agreeing now not to run for presidency. I don't know if Newsmax has a good enough knowledge on this matter, but well, according to analyst of this media company, Mark Halperin, I mean, many sources in the White House and among Democrat establishment are saying now that yes, Biden is open now to idea to withdraw from presidential race, and according to some reports, he even authorized some survey to be conducted about his support to Kamala Harris, and yes, he is getting ready to announce about his withdrawal from the race, and this may happen even this weekend. So let's see. I said quite a number of times that it seems like some administrative coup d'etat is taking place inside the Democratic establishment, and well, Biden clearly was set up, by the way, with that debates, isn't it? Democrat establishment knew perfectly well that Biden will demonstrate himself very poorly, and they will have all the necessary reasoning ground to basically remove him without any significant backlash inside the party or party supporters, and they are moving in this direction. And yes, most likely Biden will not run for presidency, although according to reports that I see, Kamala Harris may be chosen for this to run against Trump, but I don't know, man. Kamala Harris, she's even less popular than Biden is. So what the hell is going on? Maybe, by the way, Democrats know perfectly well that no matter which candidate they're gonna put against Trump, they're gonna lose, and therefore maybe they will run now with Kamala and save other candidates for the next presidential cycle. For example, this California governor Newsom, or maybe even Michelle Obama. Who knows? I don't know, but yes, new news is that Biden may announce this weekend that he will no longer run for presidency. RIA Novosti is reporting, by the way, that according to Politico, Israeli delegation refused to go for negotiations about the escalation in the Gaza. Excuse me, dear friends. Shit, I cannot start recording this video, again. So therefore, I'm gonna continue. So yes, according to Politico, Israeli delegation refused to go into that meeting, although Politico is not sharing information where this meeting should take place about the escalation and with whom. But earlier we had reports that in Damascus some negotiations should take place early, isn't it? It would be Israeli delegation from Egypt, obviously, from Qatar, from some other countries, US. There was reports even that head of US CIA was planning to go to Damascus exactly for this meeting, but I don't know what happened after that. But unfortunately, every time there are some reports about possible peace agreement, something is happened, and this agreement is derailed every single time, isn't it? And meanwhile, this tragedy in Palestine continues. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Western media outlets are pointing out the presence of Russian submarines in Irish Sea, and according to National Interest, this is a think tank, Republican or pro-Republicans think tank in US. As far as I understand, they have a magazine, also interesting magazine, by the way, National Interests, and they write about presence of Russian kilo-class submarines in the Irish Sea, which is, according to this media outlet, is a clear demonstration of force by Moscow, and these submarines are very much capable, by the way. In the NATO, they are called black holes because they are extremely quiet and very difficult to detect. So they can basically move around freely, and they have that's how they look, by the way. This is diesel electric submarines, by the way. They are very quiet, and they are armed with not just torpedoes but also cruise missiles. So of course it's a serious stuff. They can surface and anywhere, or they may don't even surface. They can launch those missiles from underwater position also. So they can strike anywhere at any time. They may not be as capable as the nuclear submarines, but they are more quieter than nuclear submarines, as far as I understand. And that's why NATO called these submarines black holes. So yes, I will agree with the national interests that presence of Russian submarines around UK, around Ireland, around some major shipping lines, definitely is a message not to mess around too much. Simple as that. Just not to mess around, you know, because if necessary, Russia can, you know, respond in a way that no country will be able to withstand or survive after. Literally no country will withstand or survive after. So it's good, it will be best for everybody to, you know, to start de-escalating, spend more time on this topic, de-escalate, because tensions are too high. Vzglyad newspaper is also reporting about statements of the head of Georgia's parliament, Shalva Papuashvili, who said that during his televised interview on Imedi TV station that some Western politicians, by the way, that were attacking Georgia and criticizing Georgia's government for unwillingness of Tbilisi to play kind of second fronter against Russia and to impose some sanctions on Russia and stuff. Some of those politicians now have realized that Georgia's position was correct. They realized that because of Georgia's principled attitude towards this topic, many European businesses didn't shut down. Many European businesses are still able to sell their goods and services through Georgia to Russia and maintain some profits, serious profits. And also European businesses are able to receive from Russia some goods and services through Georgia, which also allows them to stay, maintain competitiveness on the world market. And many companies in Europe, by the way, in Europe are of course global companies. Russian market was immensely important for many of them, and of course, as I reported many times before, by the way, there are companies that are doing some rebranding, doing some other stuff, whatever it takes to somehow maintain their presence on the Russian market, because it's a big market, by the way. It may not be as huge as Chinese or US market, but still, by the way, Russia is the fourth economy in this world, right? And it's a huge potential here. And yes, Papuashvili is stated in his interview that many officials in Europe, once they realize how positive for EU economy Georgia's position was and EU businesses, they are now supporting Georgia's government and acknowledging that Georgia's government was right. And same time, Papuashvili said that he hopes, because of this change in attitude, at least among some high-ranking officials in Europe, Papuashvili hopes that in October, when parliamentary elections take place and the current ruling party will yet again win majority, he expressed hope that, well, Brussels basically stop its hostile policies and return to a line of cooperation with Georgia. And well, I don't know about Brussels, but I'm afraid U.S. Washington's administration, U.S. Secret Services are not going to stop, and most likely this autumn parliamentary election in Georgia will be used as a starting ground for another attempt to destabilize this republic, former Soviet republic, in the Southern Caucasus region, and to conduct then regime change and put in power some Western puppets, some extremists, and then use Georgia as a second front against Russia and basically sacrifice people of Georgia, their interests, and Georgia as a republic itself. So government of Georgia should be ready, by the way. They should never ever trust Western ruling class and their puppets in the Western states or state institutions. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian prosecutor is demanding 18 years in a colony of strict regime for Evan Gershkovich, so-called journalist of the Wall Street Journal, that was working to gather some intelligence some classified information for Western services. He was arrested, and now process is in a court, and prosecution demanded 18 years. I guess once Gershkovich will be sent to, once this court will end, of course he will be sent to I don't know, 18 years to colony or whatever, but he's not gonna spend these years into colony. First of all, Russian foreign minister yesterday said that Russia has evidences that cannot be doubted. Evidences that Gershkovich was acting on behalf of Western secret services. Irretrievable evidences are in Russian hands. I guess this is some audio conversation or video conversation, video footage or something. But when Russian foreign minister says that Russia has these irretrievable evidences, that must mean something that when you see it, yes, that's it, man. There can be no doubts about it now, right? Otherwise, there is no way Russian foreign minister, this heavyweight, one of the, only heavyweights on the diplomatic field in this world, will say anything like that. Only if there is really, really irretrievable evidences. And yes, once judges will send Gershkovich to prison time, I guess negotiations between Russian and US secret services will further intensify, because this process has to end. Only once he is sentenced to jail, Russian president can pardon him, so that he will be then eligible to be swapped. And I guess, yes, secret services will work on this matter, and once Gershkovich is sentenced, fairly shortly after that, probably some prisoner exchange will take place, and if there are Russian spies in US, in custody of US or in jail, probably those spies will be released, and Russian side will release Gershkovich and maybe some other US or Western spies also. We will see it, but he's not gonna spend in jail here 18 years. Of course not, by the way. Just mark my word, once he is sentenced, it will take a couple of months maximum, and he will be exchanged. Rosenergoatom Kommersant newspaper is reporting that Rosenergoatom reacted on the fake news that is spread by Kyiv regime's propaganda outlets and some Western propaganda outlets about some emergency situation on Rostov nuclear power station. Few days ago, there was some issues with the energy supplies in the southern Russia because of this immense heat. Of course, consumption of their energy increased significantly, and at some point, to maintain integrity of the power lines, Rostov nuclear power station, there was some works on Rostov nuclear power station. I'm no nuclear scientist, I don't know details of that, but it was to protect integrity of the system, not because some incident happened on Rostov nuclear power station, and this was reported in the media, by the way, here in Russia. Kyiv regime's propaganda outlets and some Western propaganda outlets, of course, they have to come up with some conspiracies, and they start sharing this fake news that there was some incident on Rostov nuclear power station and radioactive radioactive particles are spread there, and this wave now, or atmosphere, is moving this cloud of radioactive particles towards this town and that town, which is absolute nonsense, by the way. And Rosenergoatom had to react on this craziness of the Ukrainian and Western media outlets, and they said that Rostov nuclear power station, all nuclear blocks are working as usual, nothing extraordinary is happening. I mean, everything is okay, basically, and radiation in and around nuclear power station is as it is natural level, on natural levels. That's it. But yet again, of course, Kyiv regime and there are some Western so-called media outlets gonna use anything to then build some conspiracy around it and spread this fake news to demonize Russia or say something negative about Russia, because I don't think they can operate in any other ways now, because all of them are all about Russophobia, man. That's all. So if you read or hear in the Western propaganda outlets anything about some accidents on Rostov nuclear power station, don't believe it, by the way. It's total BS and nonsense. All the energo blocks, nuclear reactors are working as usual in this power station. And this is it for now. I was hoping that update would be relatively shorter, but hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, useful, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. This is the only way we can try at least to deal with the algorithm to reach wider audience, and for very same reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends in real life or on the internet, on the platform that you're actively using. And dear friends, I know you cannot share link to my channel on Facebook because for whatever reason Facebook's administration don't likes my channel. I know that, but on other platforms probably you can share link, or at least you can write that there is a channel, Levan Gudadze Opinion, that reports from Russia about news, about some point of view from Russia, because I believe many people worldwide wants to get to know, wants to know what news is discussed in Russia, what news is making headlines in Russia, and what is the opinion of Russian citizens. In this particular case, me being Russian citizen and citizen journalist, so yes, everybody is talking about Russia, but there is very few channels that actually are working from Russia, right? And dear friends, if you find my work useful to community, if you find my channels interesting, informative, you can support if you want to, and if you can, and you can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms. You can donate on my crypto wallet, or by the way, you can subscribe to my Patreon page, on which I have some extra content on a regular basis, and I'm trying to demonstrate how thankful I am for support by creating as many extras as I can on Patreon and also on Boosty, by the way. So yes, this is it. All the links, by the way, are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everybody who supported and continues to support. Without you, this project would not exist. So thank you very much. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.